Are you ready?
Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Let's get started, Lee.
College football, great slug line there. This 2023 season, I think, John, marks the end of the era of college football as we've come to know it. We're talking about the breakup of the Pac 12. We're talking about the divorce of USC and UCLA. We're talking about the fallout that led Oregon and Washington and Arizona State and Arizona and Utah to defect to the Big 12. We're talking about Oklahoma and Texas. Last time they'll stand up and look at the stadium and say, see ya, because they're going to the Southeastern Conference, taking their talent, their money, and their ego to a new conference, which obviously changes the complexities of the Big 12. You know, the most saddest thing to me about what we're going to start to experience effective on Saturday with the first full weekend on the schedule? College football, John, was built on rivalries, and they're saying goodbye to all those rivalries. Do you know that Oklahoma State have met 117 times?
Mm-hmm.
This will be the final year the Sooners and the Cowboys are going to play football.
Bedlam.
Baylor, Texas have been meeting since 1915. There won't be any more Longhorns Bears games. Civil War, we talked about Oregon State, that goes back to the 1920s. That series is probably going to evaporate. Same thing in the Apple Cup, Washington State. Now, I grant you, USC, UCLA are going to play each other every year as they've continued, sometimes in the Rose Bowl, sometimes it'll be the LA Coliseum, but they don't think that game is going to be played at the end of the season when historically it had so many implications.
Mm-hmm.
That rivalry is going to have a different look. And by the way, you're a big-time college football junkie.
Yeah.
Do you think if you're an Oregon Duck fan, you're going to get excited about your new rival, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights? You're an Arizona Wildcat fan? You think you like to go to Morgantown to play the West Virginia Mountaineers? I mean, these are really strange geographical rivals that make no sense at all. And then, of course, obviously, you got the fact that USC is going to travel 21,000 miles for football in 12 weeks this season. UCLA has got the same travel schedule, different opponents, etc. And lost in all the conversation, the meetings just began today in Dallas. College Football Playoff Committee is now reevaluating the 12-team playoff and how it should be structured, because when this thing kicks in next year, all likelihood there will be no Pac-12 conference. So now the question, does the committee up there on the Hill make a decision? 5 conference champions from the Power Fives that are left, 7 at-large teams gets added. And where are those 7 going to come from? Major conferences? Are we going to still consider the Mountain West Conference, the AAC, or some of these other subliminal conferences? So it looks like the makeup of the 12-team playoff, and they're discussing it today and Friday. I don't know that they're going to vote on it, but they're looking at different ideas and a different structure. So I think the college football playoffs are going to have a kind of a different thing. So, like I said, John, end of an era, at least my perspective. Yours?
I'm concerned because I know that when they restructure the playoff system, my hunch is that the group of 5 schools are going to get further pushed to the side. It's going to be a bigger difference between the haves and have-nots. I mean, we see that even in the March Madness tournament where, you know, they'll pick a 8th place Big 10 team rather than a 2nd place Mountain West team. But going back to all those natural rivalries, wouldn't you think they would still want to maintain those, but maybe schedule them as non-conference games in the early part of the season?
But there is such bitterness in Oregon and Washington about what has transpired. And those games historically, John, were the last games of the season. You played it in rain, you played it in snow, you played it in mud, you played it when one team was unbeaten and the other guy was winless. You had upsets upon upsets, Apple Cup, Civil War. It's just going to have a very different feel. And Oregon State and Washington State are so incensed at what Oregon and Washington did to the conference, not just their rivalry between Pullman and Seattle, Corvallis and Eugene, they may not want to play these guys anymore. And there is some conversation. It's a little bit off track that Oregon State and Washington State just may merge and ask the conference, or what they wind up, merge and have Oregon State play Washington State yearly, regardless of where they wind up in a conference. And if the game's in Seattle, it'd be called the Apple Cup. And if the game is in Corvallis, it'd be called the Civil War. So the last two standing in the Northwest may link up and just turn their back on the Oregon Ducks and the Washington Huskies. That'd be sad. It'd be terrible. But this is the end result of the greed that existed.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money. I mean, that's what this is all about, right? Everyone's chasing a dollar. But yeah, it is discouraging. I mean, because the regional aspect of college sports is breaking down. But, you might be able to say you can rationalize it for football, but it's really hard to rationalize for all the other sports. So I don't know. It's a different, you say it's an end of an era. We're going into a different phase of how they're going to structure this. And I believe that those power conferences are going to amass even greater power and keep the little guys or the medium-sized guys out.
Okay. If you're a college football fan, we'll invite you to join us Fans Forum. That's one of the questions we're asking. Do you agree with me that starting Saturday, this final year, the way the conferences have been structured won't be the way they're structured going forward? Do you think, join us on Fans Forum, is at the end of an era in college football? Okay.